Are you hearing from your friends those feelings of depression and anxiety?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wandy Nascent, Cherish Kuntz, and Terry Wolf are all high schoolers in West Palm Beach, Florida. They told me they're still grappling with how social isolation and remote learning upended their 2020 school year.
That was my worst school year possible because being online made it so I was just completely lazy.
If this pandemic had never happened, I think I would have stopped being so antisocial when I'm at school. I think that's what messed me up when the pandemic hit.
Sheila Jo Gaines and Pastor Ray Whiteley with Trinity Counseling Centers have been hearing these kinds of thoughts from high schoolers almost since the pandemic began.
They had life figured out prior to COVID. COVID happened. So many changes happened. Now they're trying to figure out how they fit in.
Sheila and Pastor Whiteley run weekly mental health discussions with high school students here at the Youth Empowerment Center in West Palm Beach.
We talked about facing our fears.
Terry, Wandy, and Cherish are part of those conversations with their peers, where the impact of months of seclusion is on full display.
A lot of the kids are lost and searching for their emotions and their feelings.
And the same thing is playing out across the country. This advisory from the U.S. Surgeon General out this past December details an ongoing mental health crisis in kids, with rates of depression and anxiety having doubled during the pandemic. Suicide attempts, particularly for teenage girls, increased by more than 50%. There's also fresh trauma from COVID deaths of family and friends, not to mention the stress and worry about the virus itself.
It's nerve-wracking for me. Just casual things in general, I can't really do now thanks to the fear of COVID.
You never got to start a normal high school.
Yeah, I never did.
So I think a lot of parents were figuring, okay, well, the kids are back in school, everything will be great. And they're seeing that, the kids aren't adjusting as well as they thought.
Almost 2 years into this pandemic, and Dr. Jassett Smith, a psychologist, is still treating kids struggling to cope with the world they were thrust into in March of 2020. She warns the problem could only get worse if not handled the right way.
If they're being told, get over it, push through it, this is not a problem, nothing to see here, then they do feel more isolated than ever. So not only physically, isolated, but emotionally isolated.
In Florida and most everywhere else, kids are back in school, no longer separated. But for Cherish, a senior hoping to head off to college, she and her friends are concerned COVID has done something irreversible, cut them off from a normal future.
We'll get together and talk, and I ask them what y'all want to do when y'all graduate, and they were it's not really much to do because of the pandemic.
But as kids so often are, the teens we met are still hopeful. Terry, the youngest, discovered graphic design while stuck at home and a new sense of purpose.
Started getting inspiration to actually do something with my life, So
you feel like you've won in all this?
A bunch of roadblocks, but I still kind of made it through.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Jay O'Brien.